You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, a nurse said her epidural failed during her own Caesarian section. Her story prompted an effort to change the way doctors address women's pain. We'll talk about Season 2 of The Retrievals from Serial Productions and The New York Times. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and the love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Listen, Kevin, I love you very much, but writing women are fakers and toughen up ladies on my script.
Hey, now that's not for anybody to see. Some people might not understand my humor.
It was very funny. It was very, very funny. Also with us, private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of The Final Curtain, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, our captain of all things cynical, author of the City trilogy of novels, host of Rip Current, Strange Arrivals, More Like Ancient Fail-Ins, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
Hey, Rebecca.
So, Kevin.
Yes.
This is a Monday program. We have just like another week or so of our summer schedule to go, right?
Yes.
2 weeks. What is coming up next week?
Yeah, on Monday, we're going to talk about this really interesting documentary on Netflix. It's called Unknown Number, a high school catfish.
It's wild.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's comfortable to say that, right?
It's Sky Borgman who did Abducted in Plain Sight.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. All right. Well, Kevin, I just want to give you an opportunity
to apologize to America
to
and beyond.
Potentially revise a prior review that you made on the show. I'll just let you take it away.
Yeah.
Oh, goody.
I was the only one that liked Smoke from Apple TV Plus. And then I got to say, when I watched the finale, I was like, what the actual fuck? I am a fool.
What happened in the finale, Kevin? Because I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch
I watched it.
No.
I
Oh my
watched
God.
it. It was fucking ridiculous.
You're like, I'm going to watch it. And I was like, I'm going to go read.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I beat, what's his name? Well, I mean, Taron Egerton's character there.
Oh, I learned
Dave?
that it's pronounced Edgerton.
Edgerton. Oh, all right.
As that's the way that's the way it's pronounced because he's Welsh and,
Okay.
and they pronounce it Edgerton.
Okay. So, like, him and Journey Smollett, like, remember how, like, she didn't like to buckle her seatbelt? And remember how, like, John Leguizamo, like, disabled the airbag so he could put the tracker in there? Well, of course, once Dave figures out she's onto him, he drives right into a forest fire and then, like, slams on the brakes so that she'll fly through the windshield.
And she's fine.
And she's fine. She's standing up like the Terminator and like, what, she's going to put her hair up first to shoot at him. And it was just fucking stupid.
Yeah?
And
What else happened?
Oh, well, like the big twist at the end?
Yeah, you might as well spoil it. Nobody
I might
cares.
as well spoil it. And so when they have the final confrontation, Toby, they find out there's like kind of a Fight Club kind of thing going on here where Dave actually is kind of schlubby and bald, and
He sees himself in the mirror or something?
Yeah, he looks in the
he
mirror.
metamorphosizes in front of himself.
Yeah, and it's like, no, he's not as good looking as Taron Egerton. He's just actually Taron Egerton with a whole bunch of prosthetics on because he sucks.
Then how does he sleep with all those beautiful women? They never explain that.
Maybe they're not beautiful. I don't know.
It was super weird because they panned to like the family. They panned to this picture of him in his uniform in the box at the soon-to-be ex-wife's house. And you're like,
Yeah.
wait. And I was like, oh, is this the real person they based it on? And then I'm like, oh, no, it's him.
You know what's fucked up about that?
What?
Continuity-wise, when his boss, who's played by, what's
Greg
his face, was alone in his house, he was looking at pictures of him and Dave together. And in those pictures, Dave looked like the Dave we saw.
No, actually, I think there was one where he didn't. Anyway, it doesn't, I mean...
Who gives a fuck?
Okay, cool. Who gives a fuck, says Toby.
And then at the end, they just
Freddie
stare
was
at
a great
each other.
character. When he left the show, that's when the whole thing should have probably
I
been
did not
over.
think Freddie was a great character.
So in the end, was it like kind of his book that we're watching?
No.
Or is it just like
No.
he's got this fucking crazy idea about how hot he is?
He's living a delusion. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
He's living
it
the
was
delusion.
stupid.
And how does what's her name get away with killing her
boyfriend?
Her boyfriend and setting the house on fire?
It just happens.
When a neighbor has a Ring camera, a different cop that we've never met goes in, sees it, and deletes it.
Oh.
End of story.
That's
Nice.
the way it happens.
It's the way it happens.
You were mad at yourself there for a little while.
I was like, oh.
I never would have seen that coming.
Listen, we can't
I felt
all
like
nail it.
Toby defending the yogurt shop murders.
No, the yogurt shop murders is good. It's just,
that's right.
It doesn't land on everybody the same way, but it is good. You can't say it's not high quality.
Oh yeah, no. I get what they were going for. I was a mild thumbs up.
Not so much.
Not so much.
I did
wish
like
could
Journey
get that.
Smollett though, and I will say we were originally.
I think she got an Emmy nomination.
I should just mention we were originally going to review the Jussie Smollett documentary, which I did do an interview for You Can't Make This Up. I would just tell people, like, if you want to talk about it, watch it, because it definitely sparks a lot of conversation. Anyway, we'll leave it there. All right. Well, we have something to talk about that isn't any of these things in this podcast. So should we get to it?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's get that done. Leading off.
It was just all of a sudden, it felt like my vagina was just being shredded.
Ugh.
I don't know. It literally felt like somebody had like a steel toe boot and was just kicking around in there.
Oh, jeez.
At a Chicago hospital, labor and delivery nurse Clara Hochhäuser prepares to give birth to her own set of twins. But during her Caesarian section, her epidural never kicked in, subjecting her to feel the pain of the entire procedure. Despite her cries of agony, her own colleagues downplayed her suffering as routine discomfort.
And this happens a lot where patients complain of pain and we brush it off as she's anxious. It's just pressure. But it wasn't, because she would feel anytime they touched or did the cautery, she would say the burning. She could feel the burning.
The incident forced an obstetric anesthetist to realize Clara's experience was not uncommon. Not only do the pain medications fail in a significant number of C-sections, but doctors often dismiss patients' complaints as anxiety or overreactions. It set her on a crusade to change the way her profession perceives and addresses women's pain.
And this is really staggering because nowhere else in anesthesia do we allow this to happen. Nowhere, right? If you have a block that doesn't work for an ortho case, your patient goes to sleep. We don't suffer through it. We don't bite the bullet. We don't ask our patient to just take it.
In season 2 of The Retrievals from Serial Productions and the New York Times, host Susan Burton explores the underreported horror of unmedicated C-sections and exposing how institutional neglect and cultural silence continue to shape the way women experience birth. It also follows the quest for systemic change in medical attitudes and procedures for dealing with women's pain. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from season 2 of The Retrievals. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So Laura Bricker, you are the only one of the 4 of us who has actually experienced a C-section. I did not with any of my kids.
Toby, you didn't have a C-section?
I've heard stories about them.
You're minimizing
Does that count?
Laura's experience right now.
I am. Sorry.
You're looking at it through the male gaze. Knock it off.
The male gaze, yeah.
So, Laura, what was it like listening to this podcast for you as somebody who's actually had the experience of going under the knife and delivering your baby in this way?
It was just terrifying. It was like all I could think about through all 4 episodes was like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. My labor story, I went into labor on Sunday night. And I was in labor for 36 hours. The cord was around Will's neck, so he was in distress. So I had an emergency C-section. I also never dilated, so I should not have gotten epidural. But they got sick of listening to me because I was a problem patient. Because I had written about it in the newspaper about how—
You weren't a problem patient.
No, well, they deemed me one because I had written a column for the newspaper about how this was not the dark ages. We didn't need to bite on sticks in the field and give birth in pain, that there were pain medications now, and that you didn't need to feel this if you took drugs to get through the epidural, whatever. There was no shame in that game.
Yeah, of course not.
You wrote about this.
I wrote about it.
Before your own C-section.
Before I even knew I was going to have a C-section. And they're like, you're not dilated. You don't get an epidural. I'm like, I need a fucking epidural. Where's the guy with the needle? What does he drink? I will get it for him. Get him in here now. And so I ended up getting an epidural. I did not feel the pain of my C-section. I remember, Fireman Ken was there at that point, and he was like, oh, it's cool. They took all your insides out and put them over, and because he watched the whole thing. And I was like, oh, God. But thinking about that and then hearing this, I'm like, oh, my God. I cannot imagine being in that position and feeling that. And also hearing how freaking prevalent it is. That was the part.
1 in 8.
I was like, why are we not hearing about this? If this many people are having pain during this procedure that is so common. Is it like because women are just going to stand up and be like, we got to change this shit? Because if they knew about this, I think there would be, and now they do, hopefully, more of a public outcry about this.
How many would it have to be out of 100 for this to immediately have been fixed if it were
Don't
a man?
go there.
I'm dead
Don't
serious.
go there.
If this were a vasectomy or something else or something that men had to deal with,
How can you possibly
at
know?
what point? Appendicitis. If it were something that affected everybody, would they let people feel their own appendectomies?
Okay, well, one of the reasons why it's like it, quote, doesn't happen to men is because there are so few surgical procedures which apply to men, or men and women both, but men where you need to be semi-awake to understand that the pain medicine failed, right? So you can't really go apples to apples. I get it. I understand. I'm supportive of the idea of believing women's pain. But that being said, I think the issue here is that there's both a real arrogance about the surgical medical ability to block pain and to think that it's impossible to feel something. And we could not possibly have got it wrong. And the unwillingness to believe women's pain, it's both societal, which is what we talked about before, and I know we're going to get into, but also it's part of the professional culture. A lot of doctors are like, I know what's best, and I know how this medicine works. You must be wrong.
Right.
You must be.
I just ask you a question, though. You've been to the dentist, right?
Yeah, this is okay.
So you get Novocaine. I know Novocaine doesn't work as well on you as it does on me, right?
Yeah, I know it's an imperfect
But
comparison,
my dentist,
but yeah.
When I get Novocaine, he fucking waits until I can't even tell he's doing anything in my mouth before he does anything in my mouth, right? They wait. They're like, "Do you feel this?" Yes. Okay. Then he walks out for 5 minutes and comes back. Like,
I'm one of those people that it doesn't, and I realize now, that's why.
But they believe you when you say it.
Well, I'm like, I toughen it out.
I get the gas. Just get the gas.
Just get the gas. Honestly, the gas is great. Yeah, no, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that if there were a surgery that everybody got and that some people were feeling, like they asked me when I was getting my leg fixed, do you want the nerve block? And they're like, the risk is that you can have numbness that lasts for months or sometimes forever in rare cases. Right. But the upside is that you definitely, if you will not feel anything during the surgery. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
Give me the goddamn block.
And the only point I try to make, and then I'll back away from this, is that I think what's going on here is, I don't want to say the perfect storm, that's overused, but there are two things going on here. And one is that most of these procedures where this is bound to happen are almost exclusive to women, to reproduction and maternity and whatnot. So that's the sample. But also, we have a culture here where women have been made to feel not empowered to advocate for themselves. And in that moment, with all this pressure being placed on them to say, do you feel, okay, we're just going to push through and then not say anything. Whereas you're right, that might not happen to a
and
man.
And birth is supposed to hurt.
It's supposed to hurt and whatnot. And so those two things are what's causing this particular problem.
Toby.
Well, and I think there's also just sort of the technical thing with the way they test to see if you can feel stuff. It's like, why don't you pinch somebody instead of like brushing them with a cotton swab or whatever it is they do? Because it's kind of like
a needle in them.
Oh, do you feel this? And like kind of tapping somebody in the face and then hitting them with a sledgehammer and being like, well, you didn't feel the finger. Like that, I just didn't get at all. Like, I'm like, why would that? I'm sure they have their reasons, but it's like, if you're going to like trying like the most benign possible touch and then following that up with like cutting you open.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was a weird disconnect. And the idea that you would kind of go to the mat, like sort of defending it, like, well, we did the protocol. It's like, well, fuck. Maybe you need a better protocol.
I watch fucking Dr. Pimple Popper videos and she pokes people with a thing after she gives them the shots. And she's like, can you feel this? And it's like, you won't cut open that zit until they can't feel it. Like, it's that fucking clear.
I think also, I just want to say, I think that this shows sort of an evolution in medicine, because I now have a nurse practitioner for my PCP and she is young. And I remember going to like other doctors and you would have to be like really pushing if you wanted something. And they'd be like, I don't know if you really want that. And particularly like, again, specifically to women, a lot of women have gotten pushback when they're in perimenopause or menopause. Like I had a doctor say, oh, women need to just get over this. We all go through this and they're making such a big deal out of it. And I'm like,
fuck
no.
that guy.
I'm like, we don't need to. So I think this shows sort of the evolution that we're seeing where it is okay to speak up. It is okay to advocate, but there is a generation where you didn't do that. And I think when you were talking about the perfect storm, like we're seeing that here.
Okay. So I want to talk about an important formatic of the podcast that we all have feelings about.
Mm-hmm.
In the first episode of this series, they frame it like you're watching a medical drama. And there's all this writing around it, cut to scene, fade to black, big pan out over the city, close up on the hospital building. They do all these things. And then
They got a new hairdo for the new season opener.
that was a clever thing at the end, yes. But then I was under the impression that they were just going to frame it that way for the opening scenes, and then that convention was going to go away. But then that convention stayed through the entire podcast.
Establishing shot of the hulking building, dawn breaking open the sky above. A humble hospital in Chicago, a hard-working nurse, a delivery with stakes. How could we not tell this like a medical drama?
Toby, do you think that worked, yes or no?
You know, whatever. I mean, it was like slightly distracting. It didn't ruin it. I don't think it really added much to it. I can 100% envision a meeting in which somebody brings it up and people are like, oh yeah, that'll be awesome. You know, because everybody can relate to watching ER or The Pit or whatever.
We just did a singing whale, so
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
exactly what I was like, someone in the room, a lot of people probably didn't like it and were afraid to speak up. That's how I felt about it.
I feel podcaster producer's pain.
Yeah. And again, like like you're saying, it starts off, it's like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing. And it just goes on. And there are times where they actually have to like interrupt the flow to like reset like what's going on. There's one point where she's like, yeah, I'm in the room, you know, I'm there, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we're going a little bit too far with this. Like, I don't really care. Like,
Cut to me walking down a cobblestone street in London. This is about as far as from a hospital as you can get.
Right.
Like,
It's like, okay. As you can tell, I was a little bit baffled by the whole thing. And again, at first it was like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of neat. I get why they're trying to do this, but just fucking let it go after a while, you know?
Yes.
You know, that might be a good cold open for each one of the things, is you could like set it up as a cold open and then just let it go. But damn, they committed to the bit, that's for sure.
It was very confusing. I hated it. I liked it the first episode, and then I was like, enough. And then it made jokes through the subsequent series about it not land. Like the only other clever, I liked when she said this, it's like her new hairstyle for the new season. I'm like, that would have been a good line if we hadn't been hearing about this stupid convention the whole time. Laura, what did you think about it?
I think they were trying to be too clever. And for me, it really became distracting because I was just like, why are they doing this? Like, are they making a screenplay? Was this made for a screenplay? But now it's a podcast. What's happening here? Maybe if they'd done it a little bit in the beginning, okay. But then I just started being like, here we go again. And I just found it took away from being able to listen at times because I was just like irritated.
Yeah, I'm with you guys too. I mean, I thought the TV framing in the beginning was very clever, a great way to sort of get us into the scene, but it did, as they kept it throughout the whole, I mean, I was thinking at the end of the first episode, I'm like, I'm hoping this is the last we're going to be doing this convention.
Yeah.
And they did it because it became tiresome. But I think the writing overall is good, but this was sort of an attempt to draw attention to itself. There is sort of like this one passage where Susan kind of acknowledges like what she's doing here and like certain things about, you know, maybe I think it was about maybe the nuances of some of the different terminology. And it's like, and she kind of like acknowledges that, but is basically saying, I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to write like this anyway.
How about not?
Viscera, literally. That's what's inside a patient's abdomen. But also how that word is applied to art. Art that's visceral. It's of the body. It attends to the body. Hopefully it makes you feel something in your body. A visceral aesthetic, muscular, close to the bone. Raw but not sensational. Not shying away. Okay, enough self-regard, enough theory. What does this mean in practice?
You know, it's like, does this advance sort of like where we want to go just to learn more about women's pain? And it's 100% painless if you join us on Patreon all the time.
100% painless.
Not 11%, not 88%. No, 100% of the time when you support this podcast by joining us at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
And if you say it hurts, we'll believe you.
We'll believe you. Yeah, I don't know if I'll believe you, but
What a troublemaking patron.
Give till it hurts. Give till it hurts.
Difficult patron.
You'll get exclusive podcasts like the Crime Writers On After Show, Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, our Advice podcast, Married With podcast, and Rebecca's ongoing updates. Can you still believe it, even after acquittal of the Karen Reed case in the Readathon? Laura Bricker comes in with her own podcast called Leave It to Bricker, where she solves mysteries, or at least mysteries to her, in her quaint AF town of Exeter, New Hampshire. By the way, on the deep dive, the book that we're listening to right now is Toby's discussion on Some People Need Killing.
Oh.
And the next book you got to be reading now to get ready is called The Adversary. Always interesting discussions. Another great way to support us is to shop at our Amazon storefront. When you go there, you can check out what some of our favorite things are. It's at amazon.com/shop/crimewriterson. Rebecca, could you tell us a little bit about what this week's Amazon recommendations are?
I sure can, Kevin. See this cute little silicone case for my phone?
Yes.
I got this because the fancy case I got for my new phone that had the kickstand on the back and everything, which I kind of liked because I had that before. It wasn't connecting with the wireless thing in my car.
For your new phone,
but this does. This is the Apple brand silicone case, and I have to say, it's probably the best phone case I've ever had in terms of feel. So I like it, and I got it on Amazon.
And we like to tell you what you, our listeners, are inspiring Toby to enjoy. Toby Ball's deep cut recommendations. But Toby, this week you've got a special list, right?
Yeah, it may be mid-September. Kids are back in school. And, as we generally do this time of year, we encourage teachers to give us lists of things they could use in their classroom. So here's a couple of those. First one is coming from Audrey Bevel Birdsong. We have the Time Timer, 12-inch visual timer, 60-minute kids' desk countdown clock with dry erase activity card. Also, magnetic for classroom, homeschooling study tool, task reminder, home and kitchen timer. It's a lot of stuff going on.
That's great. That's a great gift for the classroom.
I had one of those.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's great for...
You run out of excuses when you have one of those.
It's good for kids with ADHD, and it has like a big red thing, so it's visual, so they can actually start to learn about time.
All right. Well, that was from Audrey Bevel Birdsong. We also have from Mandy Whittier Breton, the Clip Connect 100 pieces, diameter 1.5 inches, interlocking solid plastic building blocks set, early STEM education toy for preschool kids, boys and girls, promotes fine motor skills and sensory development.
That is completely awesome. And to get those, you don't have to go to our shop, but you can find all these lists from educators across Crime Writers on Nation when you go to our Facebook discussion group. Let's go to the Crime Writers on Facebook discussion group. If you're not already there, we'll let you in. Go to one of their lists. There's a thread pinned to the top. Pick something that hasn't been taken and help our teachers out.
So many inexpensive things, like under $10. It's really incredible. All right, so Kevin, before we end the business section, I have to ask you a very important question.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Allison True, as in I just realized, Allison, my aim is true.
Yes.
Which she's probably never heard in her life.
Uh-huh.
And Ann Lucas.
OGs, right?
Both OGs. We love them.
I love you guys.
Bless you.
Bless you, Allison and Ann. We so appreciate your longtime support of this show. Try to get other people to join you, because I think that you're probably getting a lot of value out of this. Otherwise, you wouldn't have stuck with us for so long. And we so appreciate it, because we can't do what we do without folks like you supporting the show. Kevin, does thus end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out. Laura Bricker.
Yes.
You can't say the sourcing in this story is not strong, right? I mean, silly writing aside about like being in the hallway instead of just saying this happened in the hallway. We've got so many incredible voices. We've got women who've been through it. We've got the practitioner who's trying to change it. We have a woman in England who is a citizen who's done a tremendous amount of work on this. What did you think about the voices that we heard in this show?
I think this was just extraordinary sourcing. A couple parts really stood out to me that I was like, wow, I can't believe they got permission to tape and use this information. It was like when Heather was at that conference and she's presenting and they have the recording of not only her talking about this, but people that are at the conference saying, yes, this has happened in my hospital.
So I'm going to ask just this room at this moment, how many people in the last month have had a patient who's had severe intraoperative pain?
There are hundreds of people in the room. We watch as half of them raise their hands. Half.
So having those voices, people who are actually willing to admit that they were concerned and that they were having these issues as frequent, like when they're like, raise your hand if anybody here has had those issues.
Like in the last month, she said.
In the last month. And I think what's extraordinary also is that, number one, they're getting permission. They've got mothers who went through it, the fact that this happened in their own hospital and they're willing to talk about it. But I think in this age of like medical malpractice lawsuits. The fact that they're willing to talk about it was even more remarkable because I think that shows like there's actually a genuine desire for change.
I loved every minute of that tape too,
Same.
Laura. It was so compelling.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what was interesting is like you heard the people in the audience stand up, and some of them were humbled and vulnerable about and without being defensive, which is the reaction one would expect, right? They are confessing to one another that they suspected something like this all along. And it also revealed one other thing. Not only do women not always feel empowered to speak up, neither do the anesthetists.
Mm-hmm.
Like to get that, like I thought that was really honest. And I think it spoke to part of A, why it's been a problem, but B, why it seems like you had a crowd here that was like all of a sudden motivated to address it because they understood now what they didn't understand.
Yeah.
And wanted to do something about it. Yeah.
My understanding about these conferences is that they're for continuing education credit. And like if you're a medical professional, you have to get a certain number of credits every year in order to keep your medical license. I've had friends do this. And I don't know if they're typically taped, but certainly hearing the doctors by name on the recording was pretty extraordinary. One of the moments I really liked was when Heather addressed, you know, there's all these common thinking about what you can and can't do with a pregnant patient. Like it's hard to establish an airway to intubate a pregnant patient. That's just like something everybody seems to think. And she's like, why is it harder? You do it all the time for other kinds of people who have weight issues and other issues. Like you would do it if she was in the emergency room. Like, why is this harder? We've just decided that it's harder. And so now it is like that's, and I thought that was so interesting. And it kind of, you know, brings to the point, Toby, I mean, we have spent certainly in my lifetime sort of laughing at and denigrating like the 1950s style of birth where women were just knocked out and then they woke up and there was a baby there, right? But the idea of general anesthesia is something that is completely like off the table for all these doctors. But she makes the point, like, if somebody can feel their fucking surgery, put them to sleep. Like, just do it. And what did you think about that, Toby? This idea that we have so rejected these old-fashioned conventions that we've overcorrected, and that's how doctors now just do their work.
Well, I guess it feels like those are two different things in my mind, in that the thing that we kind of scoff at, where you put literally every single woman who's going to give birth, just put her out and then like present her with a baby when she wakes up. Like that seems to me to be like sort of a view of a woman's part in actually giving birth to her own baby is like, you know, okay, your work's done. You've carried it to 9 months and now we'll just kind of take care of it for you. And that seems kind of weird.
We'll take it from here, little lady. Yeah.
Doesn't sound that bad to me.
Okay, sir, go out, smoke a cigar. We're going to knock your wife out and you'll have a kid in a few minutes.
Because we don't want to hear her complain.
Whereas the whole thing with the general, like, I think you can make a good faith argument on the part of doctors. It's like, yeah, it's scary. Like the potential for killing a patient, that's the nightmare, right? And especially in like this litigious society, you know, it's the kind of thing that can end your career. You know, clearly what should happen is when a woman says, I'm feeling this is unbearable, like you do what needs to be done to stop it. And if that means general, you do it. And if there's some other way of doing that you can do, you do that. And that's kind of the way it has to go. And that sort of, just hang in there for another 10 minutes, like doesn't really get the job done.
As you can feel me in your body with my fist poking around.
Yeah.
I just want to say there was something that really stuck out to me that's not the writing in the podcast fault, but it's medical terminology around this procedure. This is a passive voice that gets used. They went in, they did everything, and then the baby was delivered. You don't say the orthopedist did surgery on my leg and then my leg was fixed. You say the orthopedist drilled and like put screws in my leg and put the bones together. But the baby was delivered. It's like this passive voice. It's always focusing on this end result of having this beautiful little product that, you know, was delivered. Like, I understand that that's the common word for it, delivery, but like, it's all passive voice. She went in, they cut her open, whatever, and the baby was delivered. No. The doctor cut her open, stuck their hands inside the woman and pulled the baby out. Like the doctor did that. Or the woman delivered the baby, like not the baby was delivered. And that seems to be like, I can't think of another medical procedure that uses passive voice to describe the outcome. And that sort of like, I think puts another layer about the process in between the woman and the process. Laura, I have a question for you. This woman, Suzanne in England.
Yeah.
Our podcast host gets to her Susan gets to her because she keeps seeing her name pop up in all these journals. And she's like, who is this person?
Right.
Come to find out, this woman who's authored all these articles and been on all these papers and done all these talks is not a physician. She is a patient who's learned how to speak to doctors effectively and dispassionately in such a way that she's become a real advocate for change here. What did you think about her story?
I thought that was great because they teased that at the end of one episode. And that's when I was like, ooh, I need to immediately listen to the next episode because they're like, we're going to go to England and see what's happening. And I think what was interesting about that is, again, I think about how is healthcare handled in other areas of the world outside of the United States. And, you know, you often hear, oh, you can go here and you can get this procedure or that procedure. But in this case, what was interesting was that she was able to advocate in a way to advance this issue in the medical community in a way that she was not seen as a troublemaker, but that people came to actually respect her opinion to the point that she's now in medical journals.
Indeed, a survey had found that over half of doctors changed the way they practiced after hearing Susanna speak.
But I was recognizing that I felt that there was system change that you needed, and that's just a completely different ballgame.
The fact that somebody in England is the one, nobody in the United States has been advocating for this, and they have been, but it's like, it was just fascinating to me that this is where this movement seems to have kind of come together in terms of getting scholarly articles out there about this issue. So I found that part super fascinating. I'm curious what's going to happen next in the US.
Yeah. I don't think that's a coincidence, Laura. I think that England, I mean, obviously they have the NHS there. It's sort of an equal opportunity health system.
Right.
You don't have people going, you have some people going to private doctors, but for the most part, everybody gets the same care to some extent. But Kevin, the way that she had to do it was she had to learn it's like learning how to talk to engineers.
Yeah.
You got to speak in a certain way for them to penetrate, right?
Yeah.
Take emotion out of it and so forth. What did you think of that whole sequence?
Well, I agree that she was kind of a remarkable woman here to do that because she didn't just file a complaint or just, flame somebody on Twitter. She set off to do something about it. And I'm sure there were setbacks, but I was kind of surprised to the extent that this civilian was taken seriously by the medical establishment there and even had that discussion. I don't know if it was online or whatever it was, or this video where the physician talks to her about her findings. And she went about doing it what was it, like a survey monkey or something like that? But she did research and it's not crazy. It's other research backs up her premise here. And yeah, I mean, they say we have to advocate for ourselves, and I trust doctors, but I also have to, believe that they need to trust us as well,
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know if it's ego, but what I thought was rather hopeful of this podcast is that while it's very disturbing, it is slightly hopeful, more so than season 1, which is well, what are you going to do? If you don't believe women, well, here's what people are doing.
Yeah.
And we're on the right path to making systemic change within the profession and, hopefully within society as a whole.
Right. Well, season 1, I mean, it focused on the fact that people don't believe women and their pain, but it also focused on a woman committing a crime, diverting drugs, which really made this an extreme situation. And I think I think it might be easy for some people to say, well, no one's diverting drugs at my clinic. So that's probably, you know what I mean? This isn't that. This is every doctor has this experience, and it did kind of focus on a solutions-based journalistic bent, which I also liked. Toby, there is another issue, though, here, which the podcast gets into in the final episode, which is the very obvious racial disparities with women and their experiences and whether or not they're listened to by doctors. How did you think that was handled in the show?
Quickly. I think if they kind of blow through it.
Yep.
I think it came out in the first season of the Retrievals, too. I think that's where it's certainly not the first time we've run into this, but that studies have shown that Black women reporting pain is sort of taken less seriously or leads to fewer interventions than white women, much less white men,
And they have a higher mortality rate during childbirth.
Yeah. I mean, it's all seems very 1840s, it's just it's even beyond stereotypes, really. It's really about what value do you place on different kinds of people, and not necessarily just even their lives, but just their judgment and things like that.
Yeah.
It just strikes me that that's the kind of data point that points towards a system that is not really working well for everybody. The American medical situation is screwed up for a whole range of issues, but that seems like one that is really a product of years and years of American society, unfortunately.
Yeah, we also have a doctor very proudly pointing out that they treat people differently when they're, quote, one of their own, which was like very reminiscent to me of like cop language. You know what I mean? Like it was very much like, we take it seriously because one of our own. We did, and there was no shame there. There was no issue there, and like it didn't really get a lot of pushback either. I thought that was very interesting.
Well, that was a weird thing that it's like the original story that you get is taken seriously because she's a nurse, right?
Correct.
And that does not get thought about at all, right?
Well, it does in the final episode, but they don't push back on that idea. I don't think very much.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, you have to have a nurse who you know. In order to like start taking this seriously.
Yeah, my final thought here is like Rebecca said. So in season 1, we realize why these women are experiencing this pain because it's drug diversion. And in this case, something is wrong with the medicine here. And I wish that they had kind of explored that a little more, especially when we find that stat. So what is that part of the problem? Is it that some people have are resistant to that kind of pain block? Is it not being properly administered in 10% of the time?
Not an exact science, obviously.
Not an exact like what is that part of it? Yeah.
You do by feel.
Yeah, that's what they talked about at the beginning. Well, sometimes it feels like this when you get the needle in the right spot, and other times it feels like this or that. So I also wanted more information on that, Kevin, because I'm thinking about like, holy shit, like how does this happen so frequently? And if it happens so frequently, how can they not know?
Change the way you do it.
Yeah.
It's not working. Like, what is the science behind why this is not working? I really wanted, aside from them talking about how it was difficult, and it wasn't exact, and sometimes it pops, sometimes you get resistance, sometimes you're like, I think that's the right spot.
Yeah. Right.
If it's an art, not a science, as a patient, I want to know that.
Right. But if doctors are like so unwilling to believe patients' cries of pain, wouldn't they also like maybe probably want to find out like why is there this failure rate? And like, can we set guidelines for that? If we keep missing the pocket or the slot or whatever it is, do we not need more training or better equipment or something like, can we also focus on that too?
And take the hubris out of it. It's not my block, it's the block.
If you don't want to believe that this person here was screaming in pain when you got their guts open, is like really feels this, okay, A, you're an asshole, but B, could you also maybe think about, okay, well, maybe there's a problem with this medicine. Is the actual pharmaceutical product inferior or what? Look at that part of it too, because we shouldn't just be trying to focus on the fact that we need to believe people when they're in pain. We also need to prevent them from being in pain.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know. Should they check out season 2 of The Retrievals from Serial Productions and the New York Times? Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for season 2 of The Retrievals?
Yeah, this is thumbs up for me. Obviously, I talked about this in the review. I'm somebody who had a C-section. So listening to this and listening to what's going on in this area of medicine related to pain and C-sections in women was very like, oh my goodness, how can this be happening? I think this was extremely well sourced. There was input from people that I was surprised were willing to give input. There was one part of this that I didn't love in terms of the structuring and the writing and how that was set up. But I think the rest of the information in this podcast was so compelling that I can get past that, even though I was like, this is annoying. It's very distracting. It's like when you turn on your TV by accident to closed caption and it's like, birds coming in from left, light background noise, wind blowing. So anyway, this is a thumbs up. I hope to see the reaction to this in terms of what happens next in the medical community now that this issue is really being given a pretty thorough examination and public airing. I'll be very curious to see what's next. So this is a thumbs up for me.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for The Retrievals season 2?
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up too. I wish I was a huge thumbs up. I think there's just a few things they do which kind of undermines the overall thing a little bit. And one of them is the sort of framing device they use. I thought the writing was a little precious at times. I hate to say it. But they do have It's a pretty incredible issue that all these women are feeling pain when they're getting C-sections, when they supposedly should not be feeling anything. They have got great voices in this, especially this one supervising nurse in Chicago, and then this woman in England who does not have a medical degree, but does these incredible studies to kind of prove the problem. So it's well sourced, it's well told. I mean, the writing is, even though I have some quibbles with it, it's very clear on what is basically a fairly complicated subject. I wish they just kind of trusted the material a little bit more and didn't have to kind of have a little gimmicky aspect to it, which really doesn't add anything to the show. And it didn't really detract a ton for me, but it was just kind of like, why do you feel the need to do this? Everything else is so strong. Anyway, but it's a solid thumbs up. People should definitely listen to this.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, this podcast should enrage people and terrify them. The reporting is solid. We get that the writing, sometimes, trying to be a little show-offy. That's fine. Setting that aside, it's a really good look at an issue. And a podcast is good when you spend a lot of time, when we spend a lot of time talking about the issue that it brings up, not just the way the story is told. Season 1 of The Retrievals was great because it also brought up the issue of sort of like, well, why don't we believe women when they say they are in pain? And this is a super clear example of something like that happening at a rate which is just terrifying, just astounding. And the fact that people still are like, well, I don't know if this is something we need to deal with. What's also great is you've got people here who are trying to move the needle on this and are really working to make for better outcomes for patients. And you can see slowly how it's going, but it is going in the right direction. And for that reason, I'm rather hopeful about where we can get on this issue. And this podcast does a good job of making me feel that way. So I am thumbs up.
I'm a thumbs up too. I really do have a problem with the framing device and the writing flaw here, only because it's so obvious. Serial season 2 starts with this really clever elevator scene, which like pops onto the different floors and tells you what's happening on the different floors of this building, right? And I thought that was just a sparkling, great open for that show. And it's almost like this team can't let go of that DNA, that like This American Life DNA, where everything has to have a theme and be framed. And you have very high stakes here. You have very high stakes. You have incredibly compelling voices. You have a terrific reporter who got tipped off to this story because of the work she did on season 1. You don't need to be too clever by half. You don't need it. And I would be very surprised if there weren't people in that room or in those group edits or on that team who thought this was a bad idea. Like, I would be surprised if there weren't those people who were like, this is a bad idea. Similar to that stupid song.
The whale song.
In the whale show. Like, I happen to know for a fact there were people there who thought that was really stupid and it happened anyway because some people thought it was really important or whatever. I think this is like that. And I think that when you're having these conversations, you aren't trusting your work when you think you need this. It was fine in the first couple opening scenes. I'm like, oh, that's clever. But just the continuous callbacks of it, to me, detracted significantly from the work. And it shouldn't have, because this story is fantastic. Sourcing is great. We've got real heroes. We've got, not villains, but we've got a system that's complicated. We've got all this stuff, and it's just laid bare really, really well. So yeah, I'm a thumbs up. I would be a much bigger thumbs up had it not been for that. But still, I have to commend our reporter here. I have to commend the work and the fact that you're able to get and report this story so thoroughly. Really fantastic work. All right, now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the Crime of the Week. John Williams has composed some of the most iconic movie scores in history, but the famed conductor and composer confesses to his biographer he doesn't really like film music. The 93-year-old who has 5 Oscars and 54 nominations says film music usually isn't very good and pales in comparison to the great classical works. Williams' compositions are some of the most recognizable works in all of cinema. They include scores that even Toby Ball would recognize: Jaws, Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., Harry Potter, Superman, Schindler's List, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Williams says scoring 100 movies has been, quote, just a job. He says if he could do it all over, he'd put a little more of himself into the music, whatever that means. The films haven't suffered any. The movies John Williams has written scores for have totaled $25.6 billion at the box office. So panel, the world's greatest film composer, isn't a fan of film music. Who else has a surprising disdain for their line of work? Laura Bricker.
Oh boy, this is a good question.
Turns out Laura Bricker really hates sneaking around.
I love sneaking around. I do not have a disdain for my work. I mean, obviously, somebody like a plumber has got to really not like the work, but the money is really good. Because how can you really like digging around? I mean,
shit job. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
literally a shit job. Okay.
Toby, but what about you? Who else has a surprising disdain for their line of work?
Ben and Jerry, just not really dessert guys.
Oh,
lactose intolerant.
Yeah. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, Toby Ball does not like aliens.
Yeah.
He thinks it's stupid.
You know, I tell people all the time, I don't really love true crime stuff, but I love talking about it for sure. But, would I be listening to all these things and watching all these things and reading to the show? I don't know. Not 100 on that. That being said, I love doing it for the podcast. All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
We have a cute little dog.
Oh, my favorite kind of animal.
So Satorio Tomberlin's dog, Teddy. He's like a cute little, I don't know, some sort of little dog. I'm not good with dog breeds. Kind of like the same breed that Angela Buster has, all her dogs. And he is still upset about our review of The Residents on Netflix. He is Team Teddy Lavoie and found it a fun watch.
Nice.
So,
all right.
Very cute little Teddy.
That is
what
very
kind of dog
cute.
is that? A Shih Tzu or something?
It's a purse dog. I'm not saying they're not dogs. They're really dogs, but I get those little breeds confused. I can't help it.
Me too.
All right, Laura Bricker, folks want to reach out to you to pitch any kind of animal to be cat of the week, even if it's a dog or a llama. How can they find you online?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Blue Sky and Instagram.
Toby Ball, how can you be found in the world?
At Toby Ball NH on Blue Sky and at Toby Ball 603 on Instagram.
And listen to Ancient Failings. What about you, Kevin Flynn? How can you be found?
Yeah, I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
Yeah, you can follow me everywhere at Reb Lavoie, and I recommend listening to Crimes of the Centuries by our friend Amber Hunt. I was on a recent episode, and it was super fun to do. You can follow the show everywhere at Crime Writers On. You can find us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all the places. But mostly you should join our community and our Facebook discussion group, even if you hate Facebook, which a lot of us do. I promise you'll like this group. It's really great. Get episodes early and ad-free and everything else we make at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons, and our editor is the terrific Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin Flynn. This show was recorded in Studio C, the closet, our New Hampshire basement, where we also take close-up photos of our coworkers giving birth.
That was so weird.
All the time. How gory do you want to get? I'll show it all. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
You know, it sucks having people poke around in your internal organs when you're not under anesthetic. But you know what else sucks, Kevin?
What?
Listening to fucking whining for 4
Yes.
hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus. You think that'd be the reason why they would just put these women out? Go to sleep, Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
When you wake up, I'll have this uterus back inside of you.
Tell you what, come back with a better attitude. We'll try it again.
That's right. I'm going to leave a really bad scar. That'll
exactly.
teach you.
You're going to remember this shit.
You're going to remember this.
Partners in Crime Media.